As we continue our live coverage of the ongoing regional developments and their broader implications, it's important to examine not only the political and security dimensions, but also the potential economic and business impacts across the region. Now, to help us explore these perspectives, we are pleased to have here in the studio with us today Mr. Jassim Qabazard, political and business analyst, engineer, consultant, and businessman, who will share his insight on the current situation and its possible implications for the region landscape. Mr. Qabazard, it's a pleasure having you here with us today.
Thank you very much for your invitation. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, what is behind Tehran's insistence on repeating its attacks on countries in the region?
I believe it's a reaction to what the United States and Israel started. They indicated that they're expecting a preempt attack by Iran. That was the main reason for them to prepare themselves. If you remember, this was the second round of peace talks, which was held, and on the maybe sixth day, they reached to some sort of an agreement to go back to their offices and try to get back some feedback from the leadership from both sides to see how to progress further. And the United States started its attack directly to Iran. So we can here now establish that the attacker actually was United States, and Iran is in the process of responding and retaliating. Iran had mentioned earlier that should it gets attacked by the United States, it will attack all the bases and all the American interests in the Gulf region as totality.
Yes.
And I believe it showed during today is the 13th, 14th day, that was the only strategy that Iran could do in its defense against the most powerful army in the world, and the armada which the United States prepared to attack Iran by their military force. This initiated the retaliation, and unfortunately the Gulf states got caught in the middle. And we are paying the price of being neutral, not taking sides,
yes.
Protecting our own interests, avoiding any use of our airspace for any aggression against any country, whether it's Iran or any other. We stuck to this, and it was unfortunately a situation where we found ourselves dragged into this conflict. We can call it a war, actually. And Iran started systematically, starting with the air bases.
Yes.
And then anywhere that United States had any kind of presence, let's be specific in Kuwait in particular, and we found that they went to the different bases in the desert. We have in Arif Jan. I was surprised that they attacked the naval base, because the naval base have always been a country's affair, not an international or American base. And also the port of Shuaibah. So whatever it is, we are now confronted with Iran has selected on its own will its own targets, and it seems that to our surprise it has selected the whole Gulf front as an open military field for attacking our countries, and we are feeling very annoyed and of course angry and disappointed as Iran being supposedly a neighboring country. So it all boils down to the two poles, Iran and Israel. Each one is trying to demolish the other side. This has been a long, ongoing, for decades, of rivalry between these two countries. Iran's goal is to remove Israel from the occupation and to return the Palestinians to their homeland. This is their, always has been. And on the other side, Israel is talking about Greater Israel very openly. It only recently started to come up, and as we can see in the last 2-3 months, and showing plans and maps and so forth. So Israel also had a ulterior intent, is to expand in the area. Naturally, it found itself facing Iran in this conflict, and the United States is siding by the Israelis. So it seems, actually it's very obvious that two very stubborn countries are facing each other, and each one is trying to outsmart, outright the other.
Yes.
And one claim that we are going to have a decisive short war and attack and finalize this confrontation by removing the leadership and changing the regime and handing the country over to the Iranian people. It's going to be done very quickly, and that's why this large number of air and water and sea military machinery was concentrated in this area. And Iran started to, as we can see, go on the commercial side, on the investment side, on the lifestyle of our area by threatening closing the Straits of Hormuz.
Now, before we get into these details, I would like to elaborate on the first point you mentioned, which is Iran publicly announcing that it will target all U.S. interests in the region, and it did so plus civilian infrastructure.
Yes, yes.
It did attack Kuwait International Airport. It did attack residential areas in the region.
Yes.
There were casualties. There's no justification on Iran's actions that were announced. Speaking of no issues with neighboring countries, but the action speaks louder than words. Now, given the current circumstances, where is the Iranian war heading to?
More confrontation, more violence. I can see that, and
because we are dragged into this.
We are dragged into this, and of course, each side says that I've done this. For instance, hitting civilian compounds in Iran naturally is like agitating Iranis to do similar things to the Gulf states. Now, that could be a war tactic by Israel and the United States to get us involved in this. So they hit civilian quarters, they hit water desalination plants, they hit possibly electrical power plants and maybe infrastructure, roads and so forth. So they start one and the other one starts on the other. And unfortunately, already this led to attacking some of the hotels where the residents are, their life has become jeopardized.
Yes.
And as we say, with all this air traffic and air missiles going back and forth, there's collateral damage. And innocent people get hurt by falling debris and shrapnels and so forth and so on. We don't want this to happen, and we have to, as nations which are not prepared to indulge in such large war affairs, we have no choice but to try to calm down and keep our national unity and keep the people together and stay with the instructions of our leadership, Sheikh Mish'al al-Sabah, may he be supported by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the goodwill of the people that do not want to have any kind of violence and war going on. No matter how much we get hurt by this, we have to contain ourselves and not react and get dragged into this war. This is unjustified, as you said. This is uncalled for, and the most we can do is cry out loud to the international community, as was done in the United Nations, not to involve the civilians into this, and maybe if they want to continue, stick to military targets. And so far, as it seems that the major military posts which Iran has attacked have been already taken out of commission. So now the concentration is happening onto Israel. For instance, Oman, which always has been a very neutral
and a moderator,
partner and moderator, yes, and so forth, got the least amount of attacks by whether missiles or drones. And the recent attack on the oil field, on the oil in Salalah, I read in one of the news coverages that Iran said we were not responsible for this. Maybe some other third party is trying to initiate a situation inside Oman. And in a war like this, sometimes people who are sitting on the side do try to agitate the situation by getting involved, and maybe it's difficult to track who actually sent a missile. So I agree with you. It's not our will, the Gulf nations, as we can say, the merchants of Emirates, which is very, very badly affected by this. Mr. Al-Habtour made a formal demand to the United States and sort of showing this dislike and this agreement to not to consult the Arab community. And we talk Arab community, not only the Gulf. I mean, we're talking from North Africa all the way to Iraq.
Yes.
I believe that this Arab unity should now be more active and not be a bystander to safeguard against any further spilling of the war into the other parts of the countries, us being in the forefront of it.
Mr. Qabazard, let's shift gears and go into the economic aspects of the situation. Now, with the global military spending reaching nearly $2.7 trillion US dollars. Yes. How could the current war in the Gulf push regional defense spending even higher in the coming period?
Well, there are two bottlenecks in this war, and one of them is Hormuz, and the other one is Bab al-Mandab, which is the Red Sea. These two entries to the seas of the Arabian Gulf and to the Red Sea are primary to the travel of commerce that comes from our region back and forth. And we all know that 20% of the oil comes from Strait of Hormuz, and 30% of the world's need in gas, which comes from Qatar, is also comes through this straits, this narrow sea front. This now has already showed its effect. And the countries which were fearing this happening, I don't think from the news I could sense that they were sort of wishing that it wouldn't materialize and that somehow Iran and the United States and Israel would come to some kind of a ceasefire and not go to this extreme. However, as you mentioned and we talked about, Iran is persisting to continue its attack, and unfortunately it has claimed that if the United States start the war, we are going to decide when to stop it. And this is a very bad inequality during the equation. One side is persisting to continue with the war, and this is not a very good indication, and it has shown that it's a fact actually that Iran is now enforcing its goal of breaking the back of America, breaking the back of
damaging
Israel.
The economy as a whole, basically.
Yes, and this is a big it's a big war. This is too much to digest, and it doesn't make sense that Iran is taking this action and not realizing how much that's going to damage its neighbors in the meanwhile. So Strait of Hormuz, where oil, food, fertilizer components, all these are traveling, it's going to affect definitely all the main factories in the world that have to do with steelworks, aluminum, woodwork, you name it, any kind of chemical and food supplies of the different nations. It's all affected by this traffic which is moving in the Straits of Hormuz. And we're not talking about Bab al-Mandab. God forbid, if they happen to also stop Bab al-Mandab, it will make it a much bigger issue investment-wise for the whole region. So of course this affects all our stock markets, it affects our real estate, affects all the small businessmen, small businessmen who cannot afford such big shocks in their business, and that is catastrophic. Mind you, I wouldn't be surprised if Israel would try to drag Iran into hitting the desalination plants, hitting the ports, hitting the electrical powerhouses and so forth, power production. God forbid if that happens, because then it's going to be a more very, very unpredictable negative impact on the whole area and the world, I believe.
Well, you don't think that this is the strategy of the Iranian regime to pursue that, because at the end it's affecting the global economy. Exactly. It will also backfire on Iran itself.
Also, it will also backfire on itself. So far, they say we will treat as equal. If you hit us on this, we will hit back, so forth. So it's leaving the decision in the hand of the attacker rather than itself.
Going back to the energy market, with the oil prices surpassing $100 per barrel, how do you interpret the impact of this conflict on global energy market and price stability?
Already it has impacted to the point that the United States lifted the sanctions which it had applied to Russia to compensate for the loss of supply coming from our region. But for how much this will prolong and what countries it will affect. Their market is Europe and India and the East.
And how did Russia respond to this?
I believe they're very happy.
Favorable.
Favorable, because they were selling it to India $31. Now all of a sudden they can sell it for $80 and more. So you can imagine how happy they are. And they have the oil, they can supply it. So this is a big jump. Right now, India would be a first victim of this, because the same oil that he had bought it for $31 now has to pay 80 and above, 100, whatever. So that type of shift is not going to benefit us. By now, all production in Kuwait has stopped.
Yes.
All the Gulf have stopped. And we have to stop this. And this is a big machine. This is like a train. And when you stop a train, it takes so long to move it again.
Start up
so
again.
There's a time where we don't know how much damage has been caused to our system, to our oil industry and our production and factories and so forth, and the Gulf region, GCC, talking in totality. So although the prices have gone up, but if we cannot produce, if we cannot sell, we're not benefiting from this. So theoretically, our budget looks better, but it's going to be on paper unless you sell this. And anyway, if the Strait of Hormuz is open, the price is going to come down again. It's not going to stay at this point.
Yes.
So, but the fear is going to stay. The instability is going to stay.
There's risks behind it.
There is risk. And trust will be lost.
Yeah. Because
the end of the war decides the trust of the people in these two countries. What are you going to do afterwards? Will the war stop it totally forever?
Will it come again and do another crisis? Yes.
Exactly. So the trust into this whole business is a very, very sensitive element. At the end, they're all people.
Yes.
I mean, no matter how much they work with numbers, but at the end, people's trust plays a big role, especially in our region. And we know that our stock market here is very much affected by people's emotions, feelings, wills. Not all of it is scientific and going by the book, by the value of the asset.
Mr. Jassim, let me pause here for a moment, and we'll take a break and we'll continue our discussion. Stay tuned.